that will take place. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to our artist reception for Reclamation Artist Books on the Environment. We are very excited, the San Francisco Center for the Book, to be hosting this exhibition with the San Francisco Public Library. So my name is Jennie Hinchcliff. I am the exhibitions and events manager here at the San Francisco Center for the Book, and I have worked with and spoken with many of you. So it's a pleasure to see you on screen this evening. I'm so glad that you could attend. So let's see here. I'm going to advance. So San Francisco Center for the Book and the San Francisco Public Library, curators Betty Bright and Jeff Thomas are excited to welcome you to this evening's online reception for the exhibition Reclamation, Artist Books on the Environment. If there are any questions for this evening's presenters or in regards to any of the work, please feel free to type them into Zoom's chat feature. All questions will be held until the end of the presentation. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And what I will say, those are some brief housekeeping things. I am actually going to hand the screen over to Jeff Thomas, our executive director here at the San Francisco Center for the Book. Before I do so, what I will say is that we do have 2 gallery walkthrough tours, virtual videos this evening, and Betty Bright will be giving remarks in between those 2 videos. Each video lasts about 10 minutes. So I expect that our runtime for this event will be about 40 to 45 minutes, just for those of you who want to do, a little bit of timekeeping or time management. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn the screen over to Jeff Thomas, our executive director, who has a few words he'd like to say about the exhibit. So let's see, here we go. All right, it's off to you, Jeff.
All right, welcome everyone to this artist reception for Reclamation, our summer 2021 exhibition. We're excited in so many ways, not only to have this exhibition up and running, but to be able to allow people in to see it and without appointments. So it's very exciting, and it's fantastic that we could all gather here tonight. When curator Betty Bright presented this exhibition concept to me in early 2018, I wholeheartedly agreed to our participation. My enthusiasm reflected both the urgent nature of the show's focus, but also its convergence with the vision of our founders, Mary Austin and Kathleen Birch, to create a space that presented and promoted contemporary living artists using the book form as their medium. SFCB, in fact, celebrates its 25th anniversary during the run of this exhibition. We opened on a blue moon evening in late July of 1996 and can claim a full quarter century of celebrating the art of the book through our exhibition program. There are a few people who've been critical to this effort to whom I offer my deepest gratitude, including especially Peter Koch, the late Edwin Daub, and Samuel Peltz for their extraordinary project, Extraction, Art on the Edge of the Abyss, which started all of this. Curator and juror Betty Bright, the creative force behind this exhibition, the time, energy, and persistence Betty dedicated to her vision of reclamation is deeply inspiring. Betty's fellow jurors, Mark Domination, chief of the Rare Book and Special Collections Division at the Library of Congress, and Ruth Rogers, curator of special collections in the Clapp Library at Wellesley College, for devoting their precious time to the hard work of jurying and making the tough calls from an extraordinary collection of exhibited work or submitted works. And Jennie Hinchcliff, our exhibitions and events manager, for the day-to-day cultivation of Reclamation, shepherding the group through deadlines, ensuring that the endless details and tasks involved in presenting an exhibition are completed and that the show blossoms in our gallery. And finally, thank you to San Francisco Public Library curator Joan Jasper for partnering with us in hosting this exhibition. Having the artist's work displayed at both locations brings in the energy of collaboration and the chance to reach new audiences. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jennie Hinchcliff.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. So exciting. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and I'll do this. And I also have some acknowledgements and thank yous and thoughts about Reclamation and what it was like to work on this exhibition. And I'd like to take a minute to share those with you before we share our first video walkthrough of the San Francisco Public Library Gallery. And I'll start by saying that none of us could have predicted 2 years ago that this exhibition would be even more meaningful today than the idea of it then. In 2019, when the call for entry was announced at Codex, there was no way that any of us could know just how radically different the world would be in 2021. And as the exhibitions manager at SFCB, Reclamation was just one more exciting thing to plan in 2019. It was a huge undertaking. I could see that right away, but it was one that promised to be incredibly rewarding. And so it has proven thus. Last year, the bulk of planning, coordination, and logistics were worked out for Reclamation under the umbrella of a worldwide pandemic. Betty, Mark, and Ruth, jurors for the exhibition, heroically juried all of the entries via online software. Artwork was delivered not to the San Francisco Center for the Book, where I feel extremely fortunate to be seated today, but to my one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. None of us involved in the day-to-day nuts and bolts and curatorial duties could even say whether or not the exhibition would be open to the public in 2020. And yet, here we are. 2 venues, 79 pieces of work from around the globe, and an exhibition we can all be proud of. Reclamation will always stand out in my mind as an achievement exhibition, not only for the caliber of work and effort on everyone's part, but for the incredible year that we have all overcome in order to make this exhibition happen. And I thank everyone who's been involved in this process, because at times it has been difficult. I have some very specific thank yous and acknowledgements that I would like to share with the group this evening. I would like to thank Joan Jasper, who is head of the curatorial department at San Francisco Public Library, and Hannah Gribbetts, who was instrumental both in the graphic design of the show at SF Public, but also with installation at the San Francisco Public Library. I would also like to thank Insia Dott and Beth Redmond for all of their excellent installation help at the San Francisco Public Library. They were crucial to helping the show get up and running and looking as good as it did. So thank you, Beth and Insia. I would also like to thank the 3 jurors, Betty Bright, Mark Dimunation, and Ruth Rogers. Your eye, the work installed in the gallery looks magnificent, and that is hugely to your credit and a testament to how well you have chosen the work. This is a very beautiful show, and I'm excited to share it with everyone who comes to both galleries to view it. I would also like to thank Betty for her editing, her curatorial duties, her advice, her guidance. This really was a labor of love on everyone's part, but especially on Betty's part. And it's been a pleasure to work with you. And again, the show looks magnificent, and it's thanks to you. The catalog is exquisite. Betty helped immensely with that, and I thank her for it. And I also would like to thank Jeff Thomas, our executive director here at the Center for the Book, San Francisco Center for the Book, his vision of the exhibition, and also the just flexibility and overall encouragement around having this show in the gallery. It has been unparalleled, so thank you for that. That is a wrap up of my thank yous. And so I am going to go ahead and I will remove a spotlight, and I am going to screen share with everyone our first video. This is what you'll be viewing now is a walkthrough of the San Francisco Public Library. And so I'm going to Just want to make sure. I have a lot of screens going on here. So, can everyone see the graphic for the public library walkthrough? If someone could unmute and say yes or no, that would be great.
Yes.
Okay, fab. Okay, I'm gonna hit play. Here we go. And I'll do a little bit of voiceover as we tour the gallery. So what you're viewing now, this is the entrance to the San Francisco Public Library's Jewett Gallery. You can see they have a really lovely space. It's in the lower level for those of you who may decide to visit and take in the exhibition there. And so we have about 45 pieces that are on display. And one of the things that Betty will talk about in a little bit, I'm sure, is that she grouped the work according to different ideas, curatorially speaking. And so we have invocation, shape-shifting, and, oh man, the other thing I'm not remembering right now. But when we installed the work in both galleries, both at San Francisco Public and here at San Francisco Center for the Book, it was important to me that we follow those umbrellas and we group the work together according to the categories that Betty had laid out. So you can see some of the beautiful wall panels that we have up in the gallery. Betty's statement. And then we really start to get into, you know, the heart of the show. And so these are all books that are related to shape-shifting, which Betty will talk about in a minute. Nora Powell's, Amanda Marchand. We have John Cobb and Erica Jogli. Judith Selby Lang, Susan Loudermilk. There's a long shot of the gallery, just kind of looking back. The framed pieces are by Frances Ashforth. 14 different pieces. And in the case here, we have C.B. Sherlock's Blue and C. Press's Undare. So that's blue that you see. Books about reportage. So more informational based, statistics, fact based. With subcategories like narrative and photo book works. One of the beautiful things about these particular pieces is that all of the lettering in Tony Balaver's work that you just saw, it's all hand cut text. Javier Barrera. Very difficult to select just one print to display. You'll notice there's a QR code to this piece. There were two pieces in the show that had QR codes so that if viewers were in the gallery, they can take a picture and listen, in this case, to one of the stories of the MTR miners featured in Javier's work. We have some back images on the far back wall. And then two cases filled with work. The back piece is by Laura Russell. The front piece is Lorna Stevens. Katie Hatinga, Florine de la Salle, and Ryoko Adachi. Ooh, this one was hard to get a good sort of non-glare shot for you, but in the back you'll see KT, you'll see Camden Richards in the foreground, another book by Florine, Linda Ekstrom, Susie Wolf. That little turquoise book is called Mother Nature. When I took this video, the library had just opened, so it was very early in the morning. And also it was the first day that the exhibition was open at San Francisco Public. So this was literally Wednesday. So it was nice to have a quiet moment to film everyone's work in the space and, you know, gain a different perspective on it, because by then the lids were on the cases, which they hadn't been before, you know, the last time I had been in the space. So just gave it a nice finishing touch. And so then we move into sort of the middle of the main gallery space. We have Anne Covell's Sea Change, Valerie Kerrigan's Cup of Gold, Radha Pandey, you can see it right there, Algal Fungal. Mm-hmm. 10 Meters of Mycelium by Lizzie Brewer. And work by Susie Wolf. This one was perhaps the most difficult to figure out how to install because, you know, I wanted to be able to show a lot of the detail. But they have an excellent installation person at SFPL, so that was, I left that one to him. And so now as we walk back towards the front of the space, we're kind of wrapping up our tour of SFPL, and I'll hand you over to Betty in a second. But we'll end with Camden Richards' work, Water Calling, which also has a QR code for visitors to, you know, you can take a picture in your gallery and listen on the phone, and it plays this very beautiful, calming water soundtrack. I like to refer to it as a water symphony. I don't know how Camden would feel about that, but it's pretty relaxing. It's great. And so we wrap up with our tour of SFPL. I'm going to stop sharing and I am going to hand it over to Betty in just a second. I'll spotlight Betty. And she, I'm sure, has a few words to say, a few excellent words to say about what we're seeing. So take it away, Betty.
Wow, that was really kind of beautiful and powerful. Honestly, Jennie, what a great opportunity just to have you take the time and pace us through that show. I mean, that was really lovely. I can't thank you enough, and I so look forward to seeing the second half of this. I still wish I was in San Francisco. Actually, I'm in Boulder now visiting family, but boy, that was lovely. I'm thrilled to have seen the work, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see it even virtually. So, well, I'm going to echo some of the things that you've heard already. This is, as you know now, a 3-year project that we are wrapping up. And I'm just so grateful for all of the support and involvement on a number of folks' parts. And then I will say a bit more about the jurying. And then I'll talk about those sections just as a way of entering the work, give you a sense. When we have so many works on show, 79 works, anything that I think helps a reader or a viewer to start to sort them out in their minds and just get into those stories, anything might be helpful for that. So I will definitely do that. So I have to start by thanking Jeff and Jennie. Of course, I could go on. They know how strongly I feel about Jeff's initial support, as he mentioned, and then Jennie's ongoing Yo Woman's effort. Honestly, it's been tremendous, along with, of course, the board and the members of San Francisco Center for the Book. And then also, as Jennie has mentioned, Joan Jasper and San Francisco Public Library. I mean, this 2-site opportunity here was extraordinary, and Joan has stepped up. All of them have been working hard, flexible, and committed. And as Jennie was mentioning to us, it's been pretty high on the commitment demand here in the last few years. So thank you. Thank all of you so very much. I just think it's so fortunate, as Jennie mentioned, that the work is in place. That, you know, I was looking at it, I can look at dimensions, but to see the work installed and get a sense of the heft and the breadth of it and how it presents, you know, in a gallery, that's so exciting. So it's so cool. It's so wonderful that we actually have it in space, in place. Folks can come and visit it. And I'm sure Jennie will be saying a few words about the catalog. The catalog will give everybody images and discussion of those works. So the show will, as we say, live on. And that was a big part of this as well. I also want to begin by extending my heartfelt thanks to my co-jurors and catalog essayists, Ruth Rogers of Wellesley College, and Ruth is joining us here tonight on Zoom, and also to Mark Dimination of the Library of Congress. This is, as I like to call it, passion work. We do this because we believe so strongly in this work. The artists, I like to say, are the ones for me that they're why I'm doing this work. I get inspired by your vision and your voices. So many thanks, and many thanks to Ruth and Mark. So I took a few minutes to think. Jennie wanted me to say whatever comments might come to mind. So I've been thinking back a bit, and I had to do one more initial comment because, you know, as a historian, I look back on the so-called recent history of book art, which, depending on how you want to date it, you can talk about the 1960s and forward or whatever, just choose your date, right? But so many times in the history of this field, I have been repeatedly struck by the fact that vision drives us forward, you know, always, again and again. And with that, I don't know if this is true in other art forms, but in particular with the book arts, it's a single person who has that vision and commitment and drive, and you just see this tremendous influence that can come from that. So in this case, again, it was Peter Koch's audacious global ambition to raise a ruckus with Extraction, Art on the Edge of the Abyss. Peter was soon joined by Samuel Peltz and others, as was mentioned, but it was Extraction's vision that in turn inspired Reclamation. So that has to be said. I also believe Peter is joining us this evening. I know he had hoped to, so I just want to acknowledge and honor that commitment to our field and to our planet, because it inspires all of us to move beyond just imagining to creation, to doing the work, to taking action. I'm sure, thinking back again, that Extraction now has launched hundreds of projects around the world. It's inspired perhaps thousands of new works, all voices raised together. And I really hope that everyone here takes time to go onto the Extraction site, because that and other things that they've been involved with give you a great sense of the journey they've all been on. And so many of our fellow artists and writers and performers are stepping up as well. So it's all powerful stuff. Okay, so now to say a few words about Reclamation, I can begin with the jurying process, which was a journey for Ruth Rogers, Mark Diminution, and myself. When we logged on, 300 proposals awaited us from artists representing 6 countries. So it was a really exciting efflorescence of work and voice and vision from around the globe. So again, we were on our pandemic reboot. So each of us reviewed every proposal on our own, figured out how we were going to discuss it. And then we convened in 3 separate Zoom calls. You know, I did not keep track of how long. Now, Ruth is on the call. She could interrupt and call it out. But in my reckoning, it was maybe 14 hours on Zoom total, 3 different Zoom rounds. So we can all imagine that. All of us have gotten to know Zoom. But, you know, it worked fine because the work led us. The work inspired us. It's always so invigorating to talk about this work, and we just kind of fed off of each other. It was really a positive experience overall, but we needed every minute of those hours to really look and give each work its justice and talk it through, take our time and reflect. So at the end of those 3 calls, we ended up with 79 total works, as Jennie mentioned, that are now on show in these 2 sites and have also been illustrated and discussed in the catalog. So many thanks to every artist who sent in a proposal, and many thanks to those artists whose works are represented here. So if we return to the fact that Reclamation is about voices raised, those voices arrive, as I see it, as stories that artists feel compelled to tell, stories that affect each of us and affect the world that we inhabit. I was personally repeatedly pulled in and humbled by the sheer breadth of knowledge conveyed through the works, either in their content or once captured by the work, interested, fascinated, curious by a particular work. Of course, with the gift of the internet, it was so easy to go deeper into their stories. Those stories are extraordinary, each of them. The data is important, each of them. It is so easy, though, for all of us living our distracted lives to not take time to focus in and live with those works. And that's what we have here from these artists, is they have lived with this data. They have come up with a particular way to share their concerns and to share their stories. And now we have the results here. And of course, since this is book art, there are a myriad number of means available for giving voice. Content can be released incrementally through a paginated format. A story, as we see in the show, it can be expressed more fluidly across an accordion format, across a concertina. A message can be concentrated in a sculptural work, or a work can expand up and across a wall to inhabit that space. So however we encounter the work, they tell these stories, the stories that need to be experienced and then passed on to someone else. So I mentioned that the 3 of us who juried the show also wrote essays for the catalog. Ruth and Mark looked closely at a few selected works, and my essay touched upon every exhibited work within a category or context. And as we just saw, so I hadn't seen that video either until we all watched it together. I see that San Francisco Public Library, and I'm sure the Book Center, they've all done a tremendous job. I didn't write the essay with that in mind, that they would end up kind of migrating onto the installation of the works, but I think it's worked well. Let me just add a bit about each of those categories, just to give you a little more background, but also express the caveat that those categories were simply a way of finding entry into a lot of work, but to give each work space to breathe a bit and to speak a bit. Many of the works could easily inhabit more than one category. So if you visit the shows and or if you purchase the catalog, know that it was a suggested way of encountering the work. So I'll just say a few words about some of the headings, although there were several subheadings too. Again, there's 79 works, so I really wanted people to be able to focus in. The first heading is reportage or reportage, and it holds those works, as Jennie suggested, that communicate data. It's all about giving voice. It's all about making those stories live through a variety of strategies and formats, including, as you saw in some of those panels, photo book works, narrative, history, field guides. I've been noticing this lately, that it's fascinating the number of artists who find their way through a field guide format and then share it further. And then the second heading, shape-shifting, is just what that sounds like, and included many of the sculptural works on show, as well as works that reside against a wall, or even we have one work in the show that it needs a performative action to literally complete the work. So those were the shape-shifted works. And then the final section is invocation. And personally, I was interested in these works. And I think it's because they kind of enter by the side door and take residence in a way that isn't always what we expect. So these works reach a viewer indirectly, but no less effectively, to inspire reflection. For example, abstract imagery, right? Abstract imagery is suggestive. It's not directive. And yet it's very effective at generating that reflection. We're involved in the work. And then when we take our assumption, our guesses, we're just moving with that work and responding to it. And then if we see what the artist intended with that image, that changes our assumptions, and it presents an opportunity for engagement, especially if our assumption is very much different, perhaps not in an environmental context. So I actually think that's a fascinating strategy. Another strategy that might not be what one would expect would be presenting an image of natural beauty, right? So in calling forth, let's say, the grandeur of nature, the work then shifts the viewer into that reality check. And then it turns that sense of awe, that involvement that we get when we get to experience a sense of overwhelming notice, into informed activism. We are even more drawn toward taking action to protect or somehow reclaim some of that beauty of nature, to take that action. And then finally, excuse me, some works explore existential concepts. Again, maybe a surprising approach, right? But concepts of literally living on the planet, space and time. Well, what do concepts like these do? Far from distracting a viewer from environmental threat, these works instead stimulate a sense of shared kinship and a readiness to work toward protection together. We are all in this together. We want that renewal for the natural world together. So that's kind of some of the ideas of what I was thinking about when I was writing the essay, and it's fascinating to see how they have taken shape in the galleries. I hope as those of you each experience the works, and I also want to put a plug in for finding your way to the artists' websites. Many of the artists in the show have outstanding websites, and they really provide so much depth, and some of them include videotapings of their works. Please follow forward and follow those artists and get a sense of that passion that they carry forward in their work. So if I have a few more comments, I'll say that just as art tells us who an artist thinks we are so that we can decide who we really want to be, these works, to my sense, are indeed truth tellers. But they don't have to be simply doomsayers. There is still much that can be done, and that is much of the message in Reclamation. I believe, as I'm sure most of us do, that we have a responsibility not to look away from these stories, but rather, when a voice is raised, we choose to listen, reflect, and respond. Together, all of us can take some kind of action. All of us can contribute to a new narrative of the environment. So it's all about listening or reading or involving with intention. Here's another way of looking at it from Chickasaw author Linda Hogan. Hogan writes of caretaking, as in care, taking, as, quote, the utmost spiritual and physical responsibility of our time. In other words, adopting a stance of care-taking can open each of us to a profound awareness as we walk on this planet with full intentionality and move into activism, however we each are called to engage it. So with that, I'll end by first saying happy birthday, San Francisco Center for the Book. Let's all celebrate. And many thanks and congratulations to the artists, to the Book Center, and to San Francisco Public Library. Enjoy the work and pass the word. Thanks.
Wow, thank you, Betty, so much. That was fantastic. And your words about the exhibit really do resonate, really do. To see the work grouped in person, you know, in both of the venues is a really powerful thing that I hope, you know, not only the artists themselves can come and experience, but also the general public. So thank you for your thoughts and your words. I'm going to, on that note, I'm going to actually share one more video of the work installed here at the San Francisco Center for the Book. So we'll have another walk through here. And here we go. So for those of you who haven't been to our space, this is kind of our front entryway. You walk into the main print studio, which is where we often offer letterpress classes. And then we have our main exhibition and gallery space. So as you can see, our space here for exhibits is an open plan space. You can see Peter's extraction project catalog. Again, we have beautiful wall panels, and Betty's curatorial statement with the work havened in front of the statement. So this is the largest piece in the show, and I would also like to take a minute to acknowledge studio director Chad Johnson, who is not with us tonight because he is camping for the long weekend, but Chad is always really key in you know, helping with the installation of our exhibits. And, you know, he will hang the wall work. We will build the mounts together if needed. You know, we hang the signage. So I owe so much to Chad. And so this work grouped here, we were operating under the idea of invocation. And so in our gallery space, we have about 35 pieces. We move over onto the long wall. And you might, you might hear a little bit of studio noise going on, just so you know. This is the work of Andy Thrams, Jane Baldwin, and Inga Brueggemann. Grouped together here, we have Casey Gardner's Avalanche Safety, Felicia Rice's Necropolitics of Extraction, and the book Tracking B15. And now we move into the reportage categories. So as Betty mentioned, a lot more of these books are all working with ideas of data, of reporting, of research. Anne Mansolino's work, Andrea Krupp, Georgina Rutherford. And you can see each one of those little tubes is filled with something different and very cleverly titled. And as we were installing the work in the gallery for Reclamation in both venues, one of the things that I was constantly struck by and impressed with was the quality and caliber, not only of the work, but of the techniques involved. And so, you know, whether it was cut paper, whether it was silkscreen, whether it was letterpress printing, there was always really something new and surprising in a good way, in a sort of aha moment kind of way. Whoops, there I go. I had so much to say about all of the works as I was videoing them, so. And we move over to our last wall case. We have a really interesting diptych by Chris Rustin. Great clamshell and accordion book. And this is the second piece of that diptych. Janet Owens, What, How, Why? In this one, the calligraphy and the detail is really impressive. So I wanted to make sure that you could see that. We have Sarita Zaleja's work on the wall. This is a series of 14 prints, letterpress printed. And then we have a handful of books that people who visit the gallery can look through. So this is Everything is Collective, Kate Kendall, and Barbara Sears. One last little look at Sarita's piece as we move over into the last case of work installed here at the center. So we have Worrell by Jacqueline Rush Lee. We have Lena Wright's work. Judy Sarabrin, Bill of Rights for Water, which it rests in that wooden box that you see right there. It's a beautiful housing. We have Carrie Mikelani Schroeder's work, Consume. Some of you may have seen her presentation for the Book Club of California a few weeks ago. She talks about this piece and the creation of it. And if you haven't seen that presentation, I would encourage you to view it. It was incredibly moving. And then this is Karen Viola's work, Mountain Spirit. And then up on the wall, we have Amanda Thackeray's Blue Ghost Trawler. And this creates a really nice complement, I think, to our wall title that we have. There's a really nice kind of flow that works there. So that is our tour of SFCB's gallery. So you can see, you can see there's a really nice, because the spaces themselves are very different spaces, but the work really resonates in different ways in both of the spaces, which I think is pretty fantastic. So again, I just want to say thank you and congratulations to all of the artists exhibiting in this really pretty epic show. Your work is phenomenal, and it is truly an honor to be able to exhibit and show it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I think now would be a great time to do some Q&A. So if people have questions, either for Betty, about the exhibition, about the work that you just saw in either video, please go ahead and just type those questions into the chat, because we are excited and ready to answer any questions you may have. Yeah. We'll see. And in the meantime, I'll do that. All right. Anyone? Ooh, is this a quiet audience? I find it hard to believe. Judy Tenter asks, what were the categories again? Betty, would you like to take that one?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so so the three general categories, imagine now you've seen the shows, how would you group them? And imagine that you have taken the time to delve into each artist's work and website, and you feel as though all of these voices are inhabiting you. So I came up basically with reportage, and then under reportage, I had a number of subheadings. So most of the works ended up under that heading. Now, of course, all of these are giving voice in different ways, right? But for me, there was this compulsion to speak that I felt from these works. So the subheadings, if I mention all of them, photo book works was the largest group, no surprise. And then there was a narrative draw on some of these that I really felt. You saw Casey Gardner's Avalanche Safety, for example, where it literally has a fictional tale woven through there. Some of the works I felt could be grouped under a text heading. You saw the Linda Ekstrom book Take Place. You saw that book opened up in one of the categories where there's really this involvement with language. Inga Brueggemann's The Quickest Forever, I put into that as well. There was a subheading that I didn't really acknowledge, but in my head, I had a heading of fantasy and humor, or I called it small fictions. I'm so pleased that people can handle recipes for disaster. That is quite a book. And you know, it's funny and it's heartbreaking. I mean, how do you manage to achieve something like that? So those are the kind of stories, and Tracking B15, another kind of an example of a story being woven through that's fantastical, and yet it's really not. It resonates with literally the stories that we have been seeing and witnessing. Then there was another subhead, history. And in there, I put in The Flood by Florine de la Salle, and Wetterbericht, Weather Report by Sabina Golda, which literally looks back at a flooding and what happened at that period of time and the data that tracked that flood, overwhelming rain in Germany at that period of time. Okay, field guides, as I said, I could have put so many works into this subheading, but Algal Fungal by Radha Pandey was in that subheading. I put Cup of Gold by Valerie Kerrigan. That was that lovely piece that you see with that gorgeous is it a poppy? It's a poppy, right? Yellow flower, I can't recall now. I think it's a poppy. And all of that, just a sense of witnessing and looking deep at a work and then bringing that kind of detail and focused view out to the reader or the viewer, so you're pulled in. And some of the works that do that when they go into a detail like that is fascinating to me. And I think in the essay I talk about alternative languages. So the Bark Beetle book, Survivorship by Susie Wolf. I mean, these are works where the artist has almost gone into the spirit of some kind of creature or natural substance and speaks back with that in this found language that it's fascinating to me. So So I don't remember all 79 works. I've got them written down here. But then I went to the shape-shifting category, and a lot of those were the kind of the standard sense of what a sculptural bookwork does so well, which is to capture and hold our attention, to pull us toward it. What on earth am I looking at, right? So we saw Consequence by John Cobb and Don Jarab, where you literally see this beautiful cover and you're pulled into it, and then you see the burned remnants of a wood. I think that's so direct and powerful and dramatic, and bam, we get that message, and then we can read more about that original publication and what the artists are talking about with that. Trying to just choose a few. The Whirl too by Jacqueline Rush Lee, where literally the book becomes the tree, becomes the book, and you get that sense of a passage in time and a lot of texture with it. And then I'm just going to jump down. Now, I don't want to take too long, of course, but that whole invocation category, as you could probably tell, I was just so fascinated, because as a curator, not only do I love paginated books, and do I feel fascinated by different structures, when something comes in through the side door, sometimes those resonate for the longest in my mind anyway. So it was of great interest to me to see, we saw Gabby Cooksey's Blight opened up in one of the cases. And that's an extraordinary book where Cooksey literally took photographs in Washington of this drenched space and brought those images together, and then created kind of a mirroring effect on the page along with language. And I think I'm going to just maybe select one more to say something about. Well, Radha Pandey's Memory of Long Ago and Deep Time, both of those books. On Pandey's website, I would recommend you all take a look, because especially Deep Time, the artist has a video of the book literally being paged. It's not a bound book, but literally being paged, so you get the sense of how this mountain range goes into negative. I wish I could say it better. I probably wrote it a little clearer, but then I worked at it for probably a half hour per line. So take it from me, go to her website. It's a fascinating work. So quiet, so intense, and so emotionally moving when you get into kind of the skeleton of that work, kind of the spirit of that work. So I think that's a little bit more than what I was referencing. I mean, again, the catalog will have that laid out, and for those of you who can go and see it, I'm jealous, but I'm happy for you, and you can take some time in the gallery and just be in the presence of these works. So many congratulations to the artists. I know several of you are with us, many of you are with us. I really want to thank you for your voices, in truth.
Yeah, thank you, Betty. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? We're sort of moving into the wrap-up realm, but if there were maybe another question or two, we could take them. Ruth Rogers has commented, the artists are so fortunate to have Betty interpret their work. You can't ask for anyone more committed and lucid.
Well, Ruth wrote an essay too, so you can
Ruth, yes, all three of you wrote.
All three of us, yeah.
Excellent essays. Let's see. There is a question about the videos of the gallery tours available on our site. I'm glad you asked that, because you know what? I uploaded those videos today to our Vimeo site. And so I will be sending those out. I'll send the links out to everyone who is at this reception tonight. I'll send those links out to you probably next week. Very exciting, very exciting. With that, I am actually going to say thank you to everyone for being online tonight, but especially to Betty for her excellent words about the show, for all of her hard work. Jeff as well. It's been just truly phenomenal, and it is exciting to have the show installed in the gallery. So yeah, exactly. Yes. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening and for being a part of our artist reception. Oh, thank you to Cheryl Ball. She has just typed our hours into the chat, so you can take note of those, everyone. And thank you. Congratulations to all of the artists. Your work is excellent. It is an honor and a pleasure to exhibit it. And we hope that you can stop by the center and see everything, see the show installed in person, both here and at the library. So thank you, everyone. Have an excellent weekend and a fantastic Friday night. And we'll see you here at SFCB soon. All right. Thank you so much.
Many thanks.
Thank you.